Man, I love when I go to the bodega and before I say a single word, he already goes, green juice number 4, large, and I say, yes, thank you. It's a great feeling. New York, there's a lot of things wrong with New York, but one thing that New York has not gotten wrong is the bodega, bro. That's not what today is about, though. You know, part of this series and the point of this series is me just talking about the things that are honest about my life, and maybe they'll resonate with some people. And then for me, it's just a journal. One of the things that I didn't expect I'd have to deal with as a kid is racism in my own family. You probably don't know by just looking at me, but I am not Dominican, I'm not Puerto Rican, I'm not Moroccan, I'm not Egyptian. I'm just a regular old black and white guy. I mean, technically, if you literally look at our heritage, technically it's like Nigerian and Ghanaian, and then on my mom's side it would be Italian and Irish and German. I mean, but in American culture, it's just biracial. It's a good Barack Obama special. And you know what, man? When I was a kid growing up in the 90s, well, in the late 80s, early 90s, there was this, I think, maybe a false sense of racial harmony because I was just a kid and I wasn't really observing the world as it is. But I certainly did feel for a long time that people were colorblind. I felt that the people in my family were colorblind, on my mom's side. And I felt like the world pretty much had really understood what it was that Dr. King was trying to say. And I do think we've made a lot of progress, but I will say that when I was a small kid, I never thought that people in my family, the white side of my family, looked at me any differently than just a normal person and a nice guy, you know, a kid. And I thought that everyone felt the same way about me that I did about them in terms of baseline humanity. And as I came to find out later, as I became a grown man, racism is deeply embedded. You know, I had an argument with one of my uncles on my mom's side, the white side, years ago, and I wrote about this in one of my books. But it got so heated that he ended up pulling out the N-word. And it really took me aback because I thought that there was this limit that people wouldn't stoop to because if they supposedly love someone, they wouldn't go there. But what I have found, at least in my personal experience, is that racism is so deeply embedded that even those that you think would never come from, you might experience it from, whether it's family or friends or intimate partners. And it's scary because it just, for me, it made me feel very alone, you know? And it made me put up, not necessarily a wall to other people, but it just reminded me that there's a certain level of protection that I have to carry myself with as a black man. You know, it's one thing to say, well, you're black and white, so embrace both sides. And I do. And I love white people. I love my mom. And it's not about that. It's about the fact that the way the world perceives me is as a black man, or as an Indian man, or a Hispanic man, or an Arab man. It doesn't really make much of a difference to the average American. I'm not a white person. And as I've gotten older now I'm 37, I've started to feel blacker and blacker in my existence. Not because I've wanted to become blacker and blacker, but because I feel like it's been placed upon me. And if I don't take steps to protect myself and I forget my blackness that everyone else sees, then I'm at risk. And it's also been a core reason why a large number of my close friend group and my relationships, my romantic relationships have always been with people of color. And it's just because I feel like there's always the small percentage edge that you feel when someone else sees the world differently than you do, but they don't necessarily, they don't perceive that difference because they're swimming in their own pool. You know, as a person of color, I have to swim in a pool with majority white people in America, and I notice the difference between me and them. If you're a white person or someone who's presenting as white, you're not constantly thinking about the fact that you stand out or you're different because you don't have that experience. For me, I have that experience. And so I found that it's a luxury when my white friends say, oh, I don't see race. I find that's a luxury. Even my mom, who raised me to not see color, I find that that's actually a luxury that she has that I can't actually have because I have to see it as a protective mechanism. Even in my family, I've come to learn. And so it's made me blacker and blacker. And it's actually, in some ways radicalized me more. It's made me more Malcolm. It's made me less Martin and more Malcolm. And it's not that Martin wasn't preaching good messages, but it's just like, you want to have some bite to your words. You want to have some bite. You want to have some backbone, because even in your own family, I found that as a biracial person, you're going to experience the difference. And after that happened with my uncle, I started to think about other things that had happened over the years and wondered if maybe there was an undertone of racial difference that I didn't detect before but was actually there. And that's one of the things that I think trauma can have. I'm not saying this is a super traumatic experience, but I think it is a trauma. I'm not going to gaslight myself and say it wasn't trauma. I'm not walking around traumatized, I'm just recognizing it. And I think that sometimes with traumatic experiences, what they do to you is they make you then rethink every other similar experience and question whether you were sane in those experiences or whether you saw things correctly, and question your own judgment. And so those are the types of effects that racism can have on somebody, and I didn't realize that I could experience that from inside the closest levels of my inner family until fairly recently, within the past decade. And something I wanted to share. I haven't really ever gone into the full story. I wrote about it a bit in my book, The True Artifact, which I released a few years ago. But that's all I got for you today. I'm gonna eat this amazing grilled chicken wrap, which I have every single day, and get back to work. See you tomorrow.